What's up, everybody? It's Jamel Gibbs, your family-oriented entrepreneur. Welcome to another podcast episode. This is the Business and Investing Podcast, where you learn all things business and investing related. So today we're going to talk about something real estate investing related. This is obviously a common thing that we talk about on this channel, but we're going to talk about more business-to-business type of stuff. So a lot of you guys just getting started, you're either getting your first deal or you're looking to get your first deal. And if you've done your first deal already, you're going to get to a point in your business where you need to treat your business as a business. A lot of people tend to forget that, we pay ourselves. It's not like we're working a 9-to-5 job. So we have to organize things in a way that will allow us to stay in business for a long time. So when you're organizing things, you want to operate as a real business. But in addition to that, you have to surround yourself with the right people in order to continue to grow as well. And this is exactly what our special guest, he specializes in. I've known this guy for over 5 years at this point. We were within the same circles. We're still within the same circles. And he's absolutely crushing it in everything that he's doing right now. So I wanted to bring him on because he's going to provide a lot of value for you guys today and understanding how to operate your business like a business. And in addition to that, like we said, surrounding yourself with the right people, which is obviously a major thing when it comes to growing as a real estate investor. Mike Hambright, what's up, my man?
What's up, buddy? So good to see you.
Oh, likewise, man. Listen, for those of you who don't know Mike, I'm going to have him tell him a little bit about yourself, bro. Why don't we start there?
Yeah, and it's interesting. If you've been around for a while, you'll kind of get this. And if you're new, this is what's to come for you is you start off with one thing and it evolves over time into something else, right? And so and this is just like the path of life. It wasn't necessarily, I didn't look out. So I've been an investor since 2008. So it's not like I looked out and said, hey, over the next 15 years, here's where I want to get to. I just pivoted and moved along the way into more things that I like to do and less of the things I don't like to do, and things that kind of made business sense or whatever, and kind of found my way, right? So, but yeah, go ahead.
I was going to say, you started off in 2008. Did you start as a fix and flipper, a rehabber? Did you start off as a wholesaler?
Yeah, so a little bit of everything, right? I mean, definitely a single family investor. We were probably it's interesting. When I started, I didn't really know what wholesaling was. I just knew I wanted to fix up houses and sell them and make money. But I very quickly, came to respect wholesaling as a way to get in and out of deals and generate cash that I could use to fund my business, right? Because when I started right away with paid advertising, which is what I believe in, like how you really scale. Basically, in our first calendar year of real estate investing, in my very first year with no prior experience, I think my wife and I flipped about 70 houses, and we were off to the races. Now, 2008 was a different time. And because of our personal circumstances of coming out of corporate America and my son that was just born, newborn baby, we had to swing for the fences, and we did. And 2008 was a time where most people were running out of real estate, and we were running into that burning building, but it wasn't that bad in Dallas. And the timing was really good to start, but we didn't plan it. It was just coincidence that it worked out really well for us. And so we were probably at that time generally doing about 60-70% rehabbing, and 30 to 40% wholesaling is kind of how we started.
Mm-hmm. Got you. So was it an easy transition going from corporate America into real estate investing and starting your own business?
No, not at all. No, the stuff isn't easy. But I will say, there's a lot of great lessons learned, and I didn't appreciate them until I got in the business for a few years. But, the types of companies that I worked for in the past, or several of them they were huge multi-billion-dollar companies that you would know the name of if I told you, And so I think probably the biggest hurdle to overcome is where I came from. There were tons of resources available, right? Like if you needed to hire somebody, you go to HR, and if you needed a new computer, you call the IT department or whatever. To two of us in an office, my wife and I, and we have to do everything, right? And so just trying to figure that out. But I do think we learned real early on that none of that other stuff matters unless you're talking to sellers. Like we need leads and we need to be talking to people right now, and the rest of it will come together as long as we're generating leads. So we kind of came out right out of the gate, spending money on lead gen and getting in front of sellers, because that's where the magic happens, right?
And honestly, that market is a lot like the market that we're heading into right now, man. So if you're listening to this is the perfect time to be listening to this episode, because, Mike started, again, he did 70 deals his first year. And obviously no two market cycles are alike, but it's going to be very similar as we go into a buyer's market. Would you agree with that?
I do agree with that. And I think, there's a lot of people that have been a little bit worried lately, and because they haven't been through before. And I can tell you that probably over the last 5 years, I've been waiting for this time to come, like more than anything. Like, I'm looking for a down market, because things have gotten to a point to where I didn't really understand them. It's not where I've been before. Because I didn't start if I had started in 2005 or 6, and I saw this point where retail prices are overheated and values are going up at an unreasonable amount, or it seems to be, I hadn't lived through that before. I'd only really been in a market where I started in a down market. And I think down markets, and I don't think there's going to be a crash. I don't think this is the same as last time. No. And it's very market specific, right? But I do think that there's a little bit of a bubble that's going to burst. And I think that down markets, or downward kind of leaning markets, are the best times for real estate investors to make money.
Absolutely, man. And I totally agree with that as well. I've been saying it for several months. I don't think it's going to crash. I think there might be a small, not a small, but a correction within itself. Yeah. But I think the market is still going to remain healthy. A lot of people they're not seeing it that way, but that's what I think.
At the end of the day, like, the reason our business models make sense is because there's distress in the world, right? Like, we buy houses from people that are in difficult situations. And when there's a down market, people have more difficult situations, like more financial problems. And you realize that the average something like 70% of Americans have less than $1,000 in their bank account, right? I mean, it doesn't take much, losing a job, somebody's sick or whatever, to put you in a significant financial distress. And then that financial distress causes other things, divorce, tearing up rental properties, whatever. Like, I don't want any of those things to happen to people, but this is the real world, and people have problems. And if we can be there to help them solve that problem, then, unfortunately, people have more problems in a down market. And again, we don't wish that on anybody, but it's just the real world,
Yeah. And we're problem solvers. That's what we do, man. That's what we do for a living, right?
Absolutely.
So what type of mindset shift did it take to go from corporate America to starting your own business?
Some of it is just belief in yourself, right? That you can do it. And for me, and my situation was a little bit unique, and I'll kind of step back, is I worked for a very large company. I honestly really liked my job, and I just got fired out of the blue one day. And it was simply because my boss got fired and I was associated with him. And so, it wasn't really because of me. It was just through association. And, in corporate America, there's a lot of office politics and stuff like that, and things happen. And then I went to work for another company that was flying high, and we were doing really well. I was only there for 18 months, and then the company filed for bankruptcy. And again, we were flying high. Revenue was great, but the profits, apparently weren't. And then I left on my own, but the writing was on the wall that opportunity was really over, right? And then at that time, my son, when I left that job, my son was 2 months old, and it was our first child, and my wife had just left her job. So we went from two people with pretty good incomes to no income and a baby, and and it just kind of hit me that I need to take control of this situation, and I don't feel real comfortable going back into corporate America where this could easily happen again, because it's just happened to me twice in a couple of years, And so,
that's right, man.
And I've been podcasting for 9 years. You've been around for a long time. You always meet these people that, when they got backed in a corner, is when they kind of performed, right? When they finally hit the ground running. And I didn't, I know people that had it way worse than I did. Like, they had a serious health issue or were living in their car or whatever. That wasn't my situation for sure, but it was a distressful time for me. And failure wasn't an option. And so I think, and I've coached a lot of people, you've coached a lot of people. I think one of the challenges that a lot of people have that have a paycheck still, that are kind of comfortable, is they say they want to be in real estate, but they're not uncomfortable enough yet to burn the boats, right? And so I never tell people to burn the boats, because I don't really want to be responsible for that.
Yeah,
but
exactly.
I can tell you that of all the people that I've known or coached, those that are willing to burn the boats and not let failure be an option for them and jump into real estate have seen the highest levels of success.
Oh, that's by far the truth, man. But I'm in the same boat as you, man. When we say, I'm notorious for telling people not to leave their job until they have a year's worth of income saved up.
Yeah.
In reality, like you said, the people who burn the boats are the ones who succeed the most. I was one of the guys who I've never actually had a job. This was all I had, so I had to make it work.
Yeah.
And this was back in 2002, right after 9/11. I needed to. I could have went to college, or I could have done this, and I chose to do this, and I made it work. So there comes a point where you're gonna have to make this stuff work versus hoping for it to work. And obviously, there's gonna be obstacles and things like that along the way. But as long as you stay in the game, there's no way you can fail. The person who quits, that's the person who fails at the end of the day.
For sure. For sure.
So, what type of obstacles did you face?
Yeah, I mean, everything, right? Is just like making it work. And I think for us is, even though we did a lot of deals in our first year, right? But it very much was still a job. Like, we were still working hard. I was checking on every rehab. We were just, I think a lot of real estate investors fall in that trap because you start lean and mean without a lot of resources. And part of the way you're able to be successful is you try to keep your overhead low. Like, we spent money on lead gen, but we were in a dumpy little office. We had a little bitty office that was kind of a hole in the wall. But we stayed lean and mean, and part of the way we stayed lean and mean was just by trying to do all the work. Like, we've always been really hard workers, and so it wouldn't be uncommon for us to work 60 plus hours, whatever it took to get it done for a long time. But then it got to a point to where, and I remember this, I was, because I started to bring on some coaching students and do some other things too, and I would always ask people, like, what are your goals? And then somebody said to me that I want to be like you. And then I remember a few minutes later, like a little bit later, I was in the car with my wife, and we were sitting at a stoplight, and I was just like stressed out because I was like, at that point, I didn't want to be me, right? So why does somebody else want to be me? But outward facing, and of course, social media, like the time, social media wasn't as big, right? But at the time, people just see the success side, but they don't realize how hard it took to get there. And I remember asking my wife, I just remember my hands on the steering wheel, and I was like, is this what success feels like? Because I didn't feel that, right? And it was just this realization of, like, we're working way too hard. Like, we're making more money than ever before, but not living the life that many of us get in this in the first place for, right? And you and I talked about this before we started recording today. Like, it gets to a point to where sometimes people get addicted to the hustle or the grind or whatever, and that might be a season you have to go through, but the grind should not be the goal, right?
That's right, man.
And so for me, it was just this wake-up call around that time of, if we need to treat this like a business. And on some levels, that means you have to scale. Like, you have to scale up, because now if you bring on more overhead, bring on people, whatever, like, you might need to be bigger than you are now because you need the overhead to be able to cover those costs.
That's right. I had the same epiphany, man. Probably around the time my mom passed, about a little over 5 years ago at this point. I'm like, I've been hustling up until that point. I started the business in 2002. I started operating. I didn't hire my first person until like 10 years later, and I'm hustling, and then I'm still building the business, we're, almost 15 years in. It wasn't until that point where I said, okay, I need to create time and freedom. My family is growing, and if you watch my channel at all, I talk a lot about time and freedom. The only way for me to build time and freedom was to get passive income streams and be able to scale my business to a level where, I can literally walk away from it and it's going to continue to make money. Right. So, I talk a lot about passive income investing. I talk a lot about investing wisely, generational wealth type of stuff, but also business building. So why don't we provide our listeners with some steps that they can start if they've just started, or if they're looking to take their business to another level? Like, what are, let's say, 3 to 5 steps that you would implement, or that you've implemented, in order to be able to say, okay, this is a real business versus self-employed, high paying self-employed job.
Yeah, I think so. A couple things are, one is just to really understand what are your goals. Because I think a lot of us get caught up in the just like, well, my goal is just more. I just want to do better this year than I did last year. I want to do better next month than I did last month. And that's hard to reverse engineer. Like you can't just say more. Like it has to be specific, right? So you got to get specific with your goals on. And it's not even the number of deals you do a month, as you know. Like you can't put units in the bank. Like it's like, how much money do you want to make a year? How much do I need to make in a year? And it's like, okay, well, in my market, based on what my margins are for wholesaling or for rehabbing or whatever your exit strategies are, like how many deals will I need to do to make that much money, just based on my previous experience? And then how many leads do I need to get that many deals? You can kind of just back into like, in order to get that many leads, how much money do I have to spend, or how am I gonna generate those leads? And you just kind of back into it, right? And okay, now to hit that much money for my goal, like I have to. Again, I have to get this many deals. These have to be my exit strategies. I have to get this many leads. I have to spend this much on marketing. It's like, okay, well, how many people is it going to take to answer the phones or to run appointments as an acquisitions manager? How am I going to manage my rehabs if I have to do that? And you just start to build this team that you'll need to support your goals. And then consider that to hit that amount of money and layer in a team, now I've got some additional expense. So am I still really happy with, you want to look at what you're going to net, right? Not how much your revenue is, because it's not what you make, it's what you keep, right? And so, and the goal isn't to just say, I'll just do it all, because as we just talked about, that's nobody's goal. It's like, hey, if I have to layer in $15,000 a month in additional overhead, then I have to make more than that for it to be worth all the effort, right? So some of it is just kind of really getting clear on what your goals are, and then building out an organization and a real, analysis of the cost of lead gen and everything that'll take you to get there.
Got it.
And so that's a big part of it, is number one. I think two is getting in the rooms with the right people, surrounding yourself with people that are doing what you want to do. And there were times where I was always, at least in my market here, like I was always the biggest guy in the room or one of the bigger guys in the room. And I was doing a lot of coaching and stuff, and it kind of brushed my ego a little bit, made me feel good that I was the big dog. But it wasn't helping me stretch. It wasn't helping me want to take it to the next level. I was helping a lot of people, but for me, it wasn't helping me get to the next level, right? Because I wasn't around people like me or people ahead of me that could help me understand the opportunity if I just stretched more, right? So, and honestly, that was kind of the beginning of those are some of the early. So I joined some different networking groups, masterminds, things like that. And then got to a point to where I was like, I have this huge network of amazing people. That's how I started my mastermind, InvestorFuel, was just saying, I've got all these people. Like, how do I get around them more? And it's like, let me create a place for us all to come together, which was a mastermind that I have. And now I'm in tons of groups. You and I are in groups together, right? And we just try to surround ourselves with people that are doing bigger things than us, because it forces you to level up and say, wow, like, he or she is doing that, like I could do that, right? Not that you always have to compete and one up each other, but it makes you realize like what's possible just by seeing what other people have accomplished, right?
That's right, man. And like you said, you have InvestorFuel. You also have you still doing a flipnerd podcast?
I do. Yeah, flipnerd's been around. We're actually coming up on our 9-year anniversary of the podcast, and over 1,500 episodes. Crazy.
How many?
Yeah, and over 1,500 episodes, because I've had different podcasts over, like we've had, short form ones, long form ones. I do a live version now. I brought on a friend of mine that hosts my main Flipnerd podcast. We've got other hosts now, and so yeah, that's changed over the years as well.
I just crossed over. I'm a little over 100 at this point, man. So 1,500. I got a long way to go. But you just helped me. You just helped me level up my thoughts, man.
It's not a competition.
No, not at all. Not at all, man. But yeah, man, congratulations. It takes a lot of work to do that, man. A lot of people don't realize how much work goes into creating content, which is a whole nother business model within itself, man. But if you're looking to provide value, this is definitely the way to go, in my opinion, man.
Yep. But yeah, I think just leveling up with your goals and really kind of creating a realistic plan of what it is you want to accomplish, right? We do that in a lot of areas of our life. Like, you go to the grocery store and you got a list of what you want to happen, and you're buying groceries based on what you're going to cook for your family over the next week, right? But in our business, we're often just kind of flying by the seat of our pants and just trying to do more. And I think if you really lay out a detailed plan of where you want to be, I mean, honestly, when we do goal planning, if you follow a model like Empire or EOS or any of those, like you're often creating like 5-year plans and then a 2 or 3 year plan, 1 year plan. What do I need to do in the next quarter to be on track for my 1 year plan? And just kind of really thinking long term and backing into what you need to do ultimately. What do I need to do today to hit my 1 week goal, to hit my 1 month goal, to hit my 90-day goal, to hit my year goal, right? They're all just stepping stones to the future.
That's how you scale into it. So did you follow the EOS model, like traction or something like that?
Yeah, early on we used traction, and we've kind of evolved to using a system called Empire now, which is a little bit more robust.
Book right
than
there,
EOS.
I'm looking at it, traction.
Yeah, yep.
So you started off with traction, and then what was the second book you said?
So we use a system called Empire that was created by a couple friends of mine that is kind of an evolution of like the next level. It really kind of, it's a little more robust in terms of taking your business from startup all the way through ultimately selling your business. And so it's a little more of a complete model.
Yeah, I'm gonna, I like to look into that. Do they have like a book on Amazon? Is it on Audible or anything like that?
No books. I just happen to know the guys that created it, but it's a similar model where they have some consultations that come out. They come out for 2 or 3 days and help you kind of plan your future, put the right resources in place, plan out your organization, what it needs to look like, and things like that.
Got it. So just to recap the process, you basically want to know your goal and know what the end goal is, and kind of create the systems and processes that you need backtracking off of that goal in order to be able to get to the goal. So you're going to create all the way down to the day. What do I need to do today in order to be able to hit the small goal leading up to the larger goal? And that's pretty much how any and everyone grows there. That's how I did it.
Yeah.
That's how.
And really, as a business owner, creating those tasks and goals for your team, right? So you can start to offload some of that stuff so that you're not doing everything, and it's a systematic approach to knowing what their milestones are and being able to track their KPIs. Like, are they doing the activities that'll help you get to your goal? Because if your plan is to do it all, like there is a case for staying small and keeping it all, right? If you wanted to do a couple deals a month and you don't want to grow past that and you're cool with that, and there's nothing wrong with that, by the way, if that's your goal, there's nothing wrong with that. But if your goal is to be less involved in the business and scale it up, you have to have a team. You can't do it yourself.
You have to. 100%. I agree with that. Quick question. So obviously along the way, as you're training people, sometimes they're not going to hit their goals, which will, obviously stop you from reaching the end goal, or it'll take longer to get there. How do you make adjustments in that case?
If people on your team are not hitting their goals?
Yeah, let's say it's a daily goal. Say you needed them to call, 200 people and speak to 10.
Right.
What if they're not hitting their goals?
Yeah, I mean, those are opportunities to kind of coach or mentor them to get them to level up. And if they can't, then they don't get to keep their job, right? I mean, ultimately, those are requirements that go into the job of, this is the requirement, is you need to call X people a day and be able to have this many conversations and buy this many deals. And that's ultimately, what the job is. Then if they can't cut it, then they're not the right person, right?
Exactly, man. And obviously, this is something that you discuss. I know you have the InvestorFuel Mastermind. Is this more for advanced real estate investors?
Yeah,
people
more professional investors. We have 3 groups: 2 single family groups, and then we have a multifamily group because I'm mostly doing multifamily syndications now, 100 unit plus, like large apartment communities. But our single family groups are there's 2 groups. The gold group is for people doing 10 to 50 deals a year, and our platinum group is for those doing 50 and above. And we've got some guys in the group that are doing 800 deals a year. So yeah, only
That's
kind
insane.
of what I'll call like the professional real estate investor, right?
Yep. 800 deals a year.
Yeah, isn't that crazy?
That's a lot of deals, man.
Yeah, no doubt.
Yeah, that's operating a business at its highest,
Yeah, and they have 100 employees. I mean, it's a big operation. Most people are not to that level, and not everybody wants to even be at that level, right? It definitely comes with a whole new
I'm
set
not
of
the guy that
problems.
want to be at that level myself.
Me either.
At one point, we were making 2 offers a day. I even scaled back from that. I just don't want to. I don't want to operate at that level anymore.
Yeah.
You know, I'm time and freedom, man. That's kind of what I go for.
Yeah.
That's it.
Well, you've got a huge family, ever growing
Yep.
family there, so you've got other priorities, right?
Yeah, that's right, man. I'm done actually, man. I'm finished. So I just want to enjoy this time with them, man. But quick question for you, man. So how can our listeners get in contact with you? Like, where should they go on social, or any sites or anything that we should?
Yeah, the
link in
best thing
description box?
is just connect with me. Probably on Facebook is probably the best. You can. I think my friend count is maxed out, but you can just click follow. We put a lot of content out. I have a small team now of about 4 or 5 people where we're really kind of ramping up what we do with content. So Facebook is probably the best. I'm on Instagram as well, and those are the best places to find me. Or you can go to flipnerd.com is where my podcast is, flipnerd.com. And if anybody wants to learn more about InvestorFuel, they can go to InvestorFuel.com and learn more about our mastermind.
I'm going to make sure I link all of that in the description box for you guys watching this. I highly recommend listening to the podcast, Flip Nerd. And if you're an experienced investor and you want to start surrounding yourself with like-minded people or people that's doing better than you, I think masterminding is the way to go. And Mike has one of the best masterminds out there, so definitely check him out in that regard as well. What books are you reading? I know we mentioned Traction. I know you were following an Empire System, but
Yeah.
Any other books that you would recommend when it comes to scaling or surrounding yourself with the right people?
Probably the best book I've read this year is called Who Not How. And back to the scaling.
It's funny. I recently heard about that book, man.
Yeah.
Who Not How, and I haven't checked it out myself, but I'm glad you mentioned it because as a reminder for me to pick it up because I need to go through that book.
Yeah, helps you just realize that you don't have to solve all your problems. You just have to find somebody else that can solve them for you, which is, when you run a business, we talked about bringing on team members that can do those things. But I think, especially for entrepreneurs that try to stay lean and mean and try to do everything themselves, the reality is you're probably doing yourself a disservice, your family a disservice because you're trying to do everything, and your business for sure. When you're trying to do things that, one, to stay maybe cheap or lean and mean, but 2, you're just not good at all those things. So why are you even trying to do that in the first place? Like, I don't know if you've ever hired somebody. I've hired people before that I hate doing this, and it takes me like 10 hours to do it, and then they can do it in like 30 minutes, though, because then they love it, right? It's like, okay,
Yeah.
I need to offload more of those things that I'm not good at, I don't like doing.
That's right.
And I think we all have those things, right?
Absolutely, man. I know I for sure have those things I procrastinate on, but when I outsource it, it gets done, and all I have to do. I'm great at monitoring and pointing fingers, but for specific tasks, I dread it, man. So I just outsource it. So I get it, man.
Yep.
Hey, man. So obviously, I'm gonna link all your links in the description box. I'm gonna link the books that you recommended as well, specifically Traction, because that's one of my favorite books when it comes to organizing and building a real business. No matter what level of business you want to be on, I think Traction is the book. You can outsource everything and literally walk away from your business and operate it like a real business. So I'm going to link that for you guys in the description box. If you're watching this on YouTube, make sure you check it. If you're listening to this on a podcast, make sure you check it out in the description details as well. Mike, if you had to provide our listeners with some last words of advice, what would those words be?
Look, at the end of the day, I think the problem with a lot of people in America is TV makes everything look easy, right? Social media makes everything look easy, right? But none of this stuff, if you want it bad enough, it's not easy. Just be willing to get knocked down and get up again and keep fighting the good fight and keep fighting for freedom, right? Because guys like us have made it work, and it's harder than probably we've made it look, but we don't really talk about the bad times as much, and not to hide it. It's just because we don't want to relive those moments maybe, right? But this business can be a great business for you. I'd say any business can be a good business for you if you really want it bad enough. So the key is just want it bad enough, and you can't pop a pill and lose 50 pounds. You got to do the work, right? And it's the same in business. You can't just set up an LLC or an S Corp and be a millionaire. Like, you got to go do the work. But don't be afraid of doing the work. It's just a matter of getting started.
Couldn't have said it better myself, man. Love that. Now, in addition to that, you mentioned something that was really, really important. Don't compete with other people, right? You're competing with yourself. So, social media is a big thing these days where people look at what other people are doing and they say, I want that. But want to be yourself, right? Do this because you want to do it for your own personal reasons. And as long as you work hard, like Mike said, and you stay the course, you can achieve anything you want. But make sure you're doing it for the right reasons. So I hope you guys benefited from this podcast today. Let me know if you want to have Mike back to go into more specifics on maybe a different topic. Mike is a well-rounded real estate investor. He does a lot of different things. I would love to have him back. Let me know in the comment section what you want Mike to talk about next time. And we'll have him back to discuss those things with you guys. I hope you enjoyed today's podcast, and I'll talk to you guys on the next one. Peace.